guys, Braden Friedel here at the Baird Group. Today I have a special guest, Janel Fisher, who's actually our #1 agent here. And we're going to go over a couple different things just from getting into the business and how her career has kind of led her into this role of mentoring a lot of new agents. So I have a couple stats written down right here. And I want to kind of go over some of this. So 175 total transactions that you've done.
Yes.
And 5.5 years licensed.
Yes.
That's like 31 transactions a year,
Yep.
which is way beyond the trajectory of what's normal.
Yeah.
So for you, when you first got into this business, what would you say were kind of like the biggest hurdles that you faced that kind of helped you build the foundation to kind of create stepping stones to grow to where you are now?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, 5 years ago isn't that long ago, but also when you have 175 transactions, you're like, what was it I was doing that I needed help with? So I think my first year, the problem was like needing to talk to more people, because your first year I only sold 7. So it's not enough to make a good amount of money to like turn away from everything else in life, right? So it was like, how do I get in front of more people? How do I build a pipeline for myself? And so what I did is I turned to leadership and management and really leaned on them of like not worrying about things that didn't matter, right? Because I think a lot of new agents, what happens is they try to recreate the wheel, try to think that there's something else out there. And I purely just turned to our system and our leads, and that's what made me successful. So I was in the office every day making phone calls all day long. I'd call in the morning, I'd call in the afternoon. One of Michael's favorite stories to tell about me is that I called out of my sister's closet, because it's where I lived with her when I first moved back, because I couldn't afford to buy a house. And so I made phone calls in her closet because she was yelling at me for being on the phone. So I was like, I did anything I had to do to make sure that I could make that happen.
Okay.
So.
And you touched on something that I want to talk about, is you said you were in the office every day making calls. How important is having a schedule in this business? Because I think it's a huge misconception is that people get into real estate for the freedom, and then they start complaining and having issues when they're not getting results because they're not working because of the freedom. So
absolutely. So schedule is so important, right? Like if you have a 9-to-5 job, you're going to be at the office 9 to 5. It's the same thing in real estate. I do understand wanting to have that freedom, but sometimes I think we don't understand what it truly means. It's financial freedom. It's the freedom of the everyday worry of the bills, because that's where real estate allows you to have the freedom to go and do things because of the hard work that you put in from a schedule that you put in place from day one.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, it's people, they get in it for the freedom, and you touched on it. It's the financial freedom that you have. Because as you start getting busier, you can agree with this. The busier you get, the less time you're going to have.
The less time you have, and so it's I'm free from the worry of everyday like bills and car payments and mortgages, right? Like I know that I can find a way to pay for those because of the hard work that I put into this business to help build that financial freedom. So yes, I can walk away at 2:00 if I've done all my things and go hang out and enjoy my family. Go to a nice dinner. I can release in different ways, but it's not because you're only going to work 1 day a week. That's not the type of freedom that this business creates for you.
And too, with like having your schedule, right? It's great to have work-life balance. But if the work isn't there, how do you...
There's balance.
Yeah. So when you have a new agent who's like just getting into your mentor program, for example, and they're talking about scheduling, and they're talking about, well, I need to have that balance of work and life. What's kind of your response there? Like, how do you kind of guide that into like, this is what a really good schedule should look like? Because obviously it depends on that specific person. But
for sure.
How do you kind of guide people to help them build a schedule that works for them and is the most impactful for the goals that they have?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder things to do with a new agent, because when you first come in, you're super excited and like gung-ho, like I'm going to make all these phone calls, I'm going to talk to all these people, I'm going to show all these houses, right? And so you hit a wall after a couple of weeks, and it's how do we push through that wall? How do we make sure like what you want out of this is going to happen? So it's identifying like the key things that they want to take away from real estate. I want to be successful. I want to sell a few houses. What is your goal for the year? And eye on the prize is always the most important thing. How do we find out that if you sell 3 houses this year, how many phone calls does that take? How many appointments does that take? And if you can check that box every single day, you get to leave. You get to go home and then take your mind off of it. So it's making sure to structure it in a way that they understand how they can fit inside every single day, like their schedule inside every day.
And when people have objections, right? Because obviously things pop up, things happen, life happens. You can't stop life from happening. But what's kind of like how do you kind of navigate that too, right? It's like, hey, this really hard time's happening, but also it's like you can't take your foot off the gas
Right.
and kill the momentum that you just built.
Yeah, good example. The other day, someone was like, "I don't feel good. I'm not here," and I go home. Like you have to, if you're in a 9 to 5 job of any business, you're gonna have sick days, right?
Yeah.
So you need to go home, check your mental clarity, come back tomorrow and be better. Because if you're here with that like not feel good like thought process, you're not gonna get anything done. It's just a waste of a day. So it's yes, there's moments and times where we need to give ourselves grace. Go home, take care of yourself, come back tomorrow bigger and better. So that's kind of how I handle that objection of if today's not your day, go home, fix it, come back, and then you can crush the next day.
Well, yeah, and too, like, is it better to have 1 hour in the office of doing nothing because you're thinking about it,
Yeah.
or come back the next day and actually
Right.
put in the work that's required?
That's what we talked about today on our level up call. It was how do I look like I'm busy versus how do I actually create business, right? If you're coming in here staring at a wall for an hour, you're not creating business. You're
Yeah.
not making new business. You're not helping old business. So if you are here, you need to be doing something that pushes your business forward.
Well, and I love that you touched on that because I think for new agents, they get licensed, and then reality TV, I talked about this with Michael, it does such a poor job of like painting what real estate actually looks like.
Yeah.
And then you get onto Instagram, and then it's like even a worse
Mhm.
reality
Yeah.
of what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, I just feel like, I don't know, it's just interesting to see new agents when they're getting into the business.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of ask a question that I wanted to ask you was, what are kind of the traits you see from a new agent that make them super successful versus the ones that kind of are going to wash out and unfortunately be the 80% statistic that fail within their first 2 years?
It's so hard to identify like what it is, but it's more so the grit and determination that you have in everyday life. And it's the skills that you've learned throughout other jobs, other types of things that you've done throughout life. So it's funny because I asked my dad the other day, I was like, what do you think it was that made me successful in this business? He said, Janelle, nothing has ever been given to you. And so you've always had to work for absolutely everything. And so when you work for a lead and you work really hard in that lead, you want to make sure that they're going to go transact, right? So if you don't have that mentality or that clarity in life, then of course when a lead falls in your lap, it's like, oh, whatever, I'll move on to the next, You don't know how to push through. And I've told the agents that we need 30% more effort and like push whenever things get hard. And that's when you get to see the other side. That's when you get to the other side of the mountain, and that's when you see them being successful with their clients.
And I'll second your dad there because I think when agents get to the level that you're at, they kind of check out. They hire assistants. They get showing agents that work for them. They find people to do their job where basically they can kind of check out. They go on vacations. They do whatever they want to do.
Right.
You're in the office pretty much every day. I see you here.
Yeah.
You're one of the first people here. You're always one of the last people leaving. So it's like for you to still have that mindset, what is it that you want to achieve? Like, I know people have their 5-10 year goals. What more do you want to achieve in this business?
That's such a good question because I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I think that I have wanted to build something that at this point in my business that gets passed along. Like we always want a legacy. We always want something that's like followed through, right? When I first started this business, obviously I was in it for the money, right?
Yeah.
I wanted financial freedom. My husband and I wanted several homes, several properties, and like I grew up on a farm in a world where everything was worked for and everything my parents had was very little, honestly. So to be able to show them the growth and success that I've had is another part of that, right? Like everything they've given to me, I've made into more. So now I want to, everything that's given to me from Michael and the team, I want to make into more. I want the Baird team to be the best team in a few years. I want us to have all the successful agents and all the agents that stay here because of all the things that I was given so I can give it to someone else.
And I think that goes perfectly into what I wanted to talk about a little bit was your mentor program.
Yeah.
Is giving those same opportunities, right, to new agents when they join the team, or even if it's an agent who's been licensed for a while and they're just struggling in their business, right? I think Michael and I had talked about this in our last video was, so many agents, they come in with an expectation that doesn't necessarily exist right away. How important do you think mentoring is when you're getting into this business?
Yeah, it's extremely important. Whenever I first started here, it was only maybe 10 agents, so we were a lot smaller. I was able to lean on John and Michael a lot more than agents are now. So we've identified that there needs to be somebody else in this place that's done it, been there, knows what's happening, knows the mentality, knows the hard parts of real estate. And so it's extremely important to have someone to lean on, go to, stress your woes or whatever's happening, right? Not only to have a successful transaction, but to have a successful relationship here with the Baird team and in real estate. So it's hard. You want to cry every day. And so you need somebody to go to. I think that's one of the biggest parts. And then also, so you don't mess up with a transaction, like to have somebody there too. And so for you to be successful in as a new agent, because you don't know what you don't know, you have about 30 days to figure it out, and you can't figure it all out on your own.
Yeah.
So you need somebody there that's like, oh, not a problem, we can take care of that, and you learn through that.
Yeah, and you've now, how many agents would you say you've helped throughout your mentor program? About 20 now?
15 to 20, yeah.
Okay.
So a couple have just successfully gotten out, so which is great.
Yeah.
So now I think we're back to 15.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for the 15 to 20 that you've mentored and put through and you're actively mentoring day to day, what are kind of the challenges that they're bringing to your attention that they need help with?
Yeah, it's all over the board, honestly, but a lot of it is phone calls, because we're highly a prospecting based team.
Yeah.
So it's nobody's answering my phone calls, nobody's doing this, nobody's doing that. So it's thinking through some different scenarios of like, okay, well, you called in the morning, they probably have a job, they're not going to answer, right? How about we call in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Or other things are like they have transactions and they just don't know like how a transaction works yet. So it's facing everything that comes along and educating them through that of what's the title commitment, where do the taxes get paid, all of these things that you don't know if you haven't bought a house even. So
well, and too, right, because before I was in recruiting, I was an agent, and I can remember very vividly getting my first deal under contract and being so excited, and then being like, okay, well, now what do I do?
What next?
Yeah, what's next? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I think having somebody in your corner who can, like you said, be a shoulder to lean on,
cry
right?
on,
to ask questions, to come to when you really don't know, because the last thing you want to do is not come off competent to your client.
Right,
that's
exactly.
the last thing you want to do. So having somebody you can lean on to ask questions and teach you how to go through the process successfully and then ultimately close your transactions.
Right. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk on was, we have like a pretty diverse group of agents here in the office, but what would you say, when a new agent's coming in, like let's just say brand new, right? Like they just got licensed, just finished their application, they're at, sitting in a cubicle going through. Is there kind of like one thing you'll notice about those agents of like, hey, I think this person's gonna make it?
Yeah, they're showing up every day. They're asking questions, and I think I used to be a teacher, so I was like, the only dumb question is the questions that's not asked, right? And so you cannot learn unless you're asking those questions, and you have to identify, like while you're watching people sitting in your cubicle, of who's successful here. Watch what they do, watch their schedule, watch what they say, use their tone. And so that's how agents become successful here, is because there's other successful agents around them.
And one of the things I lean on when I'm interviewing agents is I do tell them like there's so much benefit to coming into the office because you're immersed in the world of real estate when you're here. You're hearing yourself, Katrina, other agents negotiating contracts that you can listen to. You're seeing how deals are being done, and those are things that at the end of the day just kind of fast track the learning curve.
Yes.
And so Michael and I, we talked about coaching, right? Michael talked about when he first got his first coach, how important that was and how it changed kind of the trajectory of his business, right?
Yeah.
So with your mentor program, and I have statistics, I follow all of these things, I can see when agents get in with you and then they start listening to what you say and doing
what I tell them to.
What you tell them to, I can see that trajectory of success changes quickly, within 30 days.
Yeah.
So not to give like all the secrets away, but what are like maybe like one or two things you want to share if it's somebody who's struggling in this business or even a new agent that could help them kind of fast track and get up and running a little quicker?
So this is actually great. This is what we covered today in our level up call. It is, how do we build confidence in ourselves? If you tell yourself, I'm going to go run a mile today, and you don't do it, there's no confidence that you can do it the next day because you haven't successfully done it. So today I told him, I said, let's write down one thing that we can do this week, and then if I do it next week, you can do it again. You can recreate that. So if it's calling all of my sphere leads, 20 of those, I have to call 20 of my sphere leads. Tell me that I did it next week. So scream it from the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Once you're successful, you have built confidence in yourself. And if you can build confidence in yourself, that's how you create a business from the ground up.
Okay. I love that. Too, that's something new agents struggle with, right? Is confidence.
Yeah, 100%.
They're kind of in this little shell of that, oh, I'm brand new, no one wants to work with me. So how can you change that, right? And it is confidence.
Yes.
One thing I want to ask you is, what's your biggest failure that you feel? Because I think you can learn a lot from winning, but often the most that you learn comes from failing.
100%. Yeah.
What would you say is like one mistake that you've made that you would share with somebody so that they don't make that same mistake?
Yeah.
And because Michael said yesterday, like, it's so important having a coach because they tell you what to avoid, not to do, not to invest money into specific things.
Right.
So like having that mentor, it's the same way, right? Like you've failed, you've gone through, like you've won, you've failed, you've done all the things, right? And now you can share those failures with your mentees so that they don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's not one failure. It is thousands of failures, right? So it's with a transaction, it's with a client, it's with a listing appointment that I went on and I didn't reflect later. I think the biggest thing that has probably held back on my business is just not like reflecting on what needed to change and growing from it myself. It's so easy to be like, yeah, I'll worry about it tomorrow, I'll do that again. A listing appointment shows up again on your door and you have to go and do it and you didn't change anything. So like not changing, not molding, and not growing, even from like day one to where I am now, I still have to grow. I still have to change and mold and be better. So like that's the biggest failure, I would say, because if you're not doing that, you're going to stay in the same spot that you are all the time.
Yeah. And something that I just kind of processed through my head as we were talking is, you got licensed kind of when the market was really hot during COVID, right?
Yeah.
And like I was also an agent during that time, and it was like literally people lining up for a house. Like
thousands of people wanting to go in this open house.
Exactly, 50,000 above list, like full appraisal, like waivers, just like the most insane offers you have ever seen.
Yeah.
And now you're into a very volatile market where there's a lot of uncertainty, and if you turn on the news, like it seems like the market's very down.
Yeah.
You've been able to increase business when people have been exiting and leaving. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because of the skills. All the skills that we are taught here have made me have confidence, right? Of like, this market will turn around, people still want to buy houses, and this is how you tell them how. So knowing the process inside and out to be able to translate that to a client so they're not worried and stressed. I also think like purchasing your own homes and properties help you understand that I can do it, they can do it too, right? So that not everybody can do that, but at the same time, you can lean on someone else that has. Because if you have that belief and you give that to your client, it oozes where they're like, oh yeah, this is easy, I can make that happen. And so in times where it's so uncertain and like a volatile market, I truly believe that buying a house is the best thing you can still do. And so if I give that to them, then they're gonna believe the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Like at a certain point, you have to believe what you're preaching.
100%. Right? And what you're selling.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Or people are going to see right through it.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, with the way the market's been, and it's still, I mean,
still
nobody
rough.
knows. Yeah, I mean, Michael was saying how he's been on calls with teams who are down significantly. And now it's, we're up 60% as a team. Obviously, we have a lot of opportunities within our team that maybe other agents don't have.
Right.
So what would be a piece of advice you would give to an agent who maybe doesn't have a lot of opportunities, who's struggling right now, and maybe they're on the fence of getting out of the business?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my advice is, and this may or may not be doable, is to join a team. Like, a team is where you can go and find more opportunities. If it's you on an island, it's the hardest thing ever because nobody's pushing you to change. You're just going to stay stagnant. And so you need to go find those places that give you that opportunity. Because I don't want to go create like a new system and do all those things. Tap into what somebody else has, right? And then also get in front of more people. Like we forget how many people we know every day, and we forget to talk real estate. We're a silent broker at that point. Get in front of social media. Get in front of these people that see you, know you, trust you, because then they come to you and ask for advice. You gave a piece of advice, then they come to you and want to buy a house. Yeah. And so I think I was so successful with like a Sphere earlier on because I did those things. I got in front of them early. I was like, I'm a real estate agent, don't forget. It was the dumbest thing ever that I could say, but just don't forget me, and it just turns into where they want to come to you later.
Well, if you don't ask for business, right?
You're not going to have business.
You're not going to get it. And I think new agents, they get on the phones, it's the same thing. They might have a good conversation, but if they're not asking for the business,
they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
They're gonna, okay, bye.
Exactly. So for you, right, and you're somebody who I still see prospecting in the office. You're still taking on new clients. You still work leads. Like, you still do all of these things. Is that something that you see yourself like forever doing, right? Because like I already mentioned, you get to a certain point, right? So how important is prospecting to your business, but to just business in general?
Extremely important. Several reasons. So it's ingrained in my business to the point, like, it happens on a certain day, certain time, I make these phone calls. There's that, and then also it keeps me relevant with talking to clients. So I always need to be doing this because I know what's happening, their thoughts, their fears, with whatever's in the market, so I can see and hear that firsthand. And then also it keeps my skills relevant. So I'm forcing myself to practice on the phone. So when I take a phone call, I don't like, oh, what should I say?
Yeah.
It's ingrained in me still every day. So you have to keep that up throughout your career of real estate because that's who we are and that's how we do business.
Yeah. How many calls do you make a day?
A day I probably make 30.
Okay.
I mean, it's not as many as I used to. When I was brand new, I had to make, 150 calls a day.
Yeah.
Now I am so much better at my skills. The 30 calls that I make land, set an appointment. Okay. And so it's not as many as it used to.
Okay. Well, and again, right, when you get to how busy you are,
right,
and now you're also running the mentor program, like, you also have to balance then, well, what is the most beneficial of your time?
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So, okay. So with the prospecting, you make your 30 calls a day. What are kind of like maybe 2 other things you do, either on a daily, weekly basis, that keep you organized and keep you able in a position to grow? Yeah.
I love social media. Sometimes it gets lost, but I have had so much success through there in small ways, honestly. So my friends see it, my family see it, they share it, and they talk to me about it, which is a great way for me to bring up real estate. I used to be, which is kind of crazy, I used to be a reporter in college, and so I love that. I love like talking and being in front of people, and it makes me happy. And then I feel like I'm sharing a piece of knowledge that I get to be in front of more people. So it's just sharing what I love with that, which is great. And then the other things I think that I have to do to stay relevant is talking to my sphere, right? Yeah. So my husband's military, so he knows a lot of people, and we push through them all the time. Like, if you're moving here, call Janelle. She's going to help you buy a house. So it's just staying prevalent, asking for business to those people.
And too, like, your sphere, those are the people who want to support you. Like, it's the easiest people to talk to, and I think people don't understand that sometimes.
And what's so crazy to me is new agents are like, oh no, I could never tell my sphere to buy a house for me. Why? What if I worked at Walmart? Would they want to come see me there and like buy from my store? Yes. Yeah. Like, there's no difference in it. It's just how you have your mindset wrapped around it.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go a little bit of a different direction. So how do you still have a personal coach, correct?
Yeah, Coach Anna.
Okay. So how important is coaching for you? Because I think a lot of people, they think they get to this certain point, right? Because you are statistically, top 0.5% of the industry, right? That lead and do 99% of the business.
Yeah.
So how important is having that coach in your corner for you?
She's been there, she's done it, she's started companies, she's had failures in companies. Like, I think seeing somebody else be human in this business helps you keep going, because all of us are still learning in this business every day. But she brings up ideas that I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. And it brings it to the forefront of your brain where you can get it done. Versus it's way back in the back of, I'll do that someday. And they hold you accountable. And so you check back in with them the next week. It's building confidence in the changes that you're making because you did it. And so it's so important to have these people that just want to push you to be better and keep going.
Yeah, and I think the accountability piece is big, right? Because even when you're on a team, there is aspect of others holding you accountable, but for the most part, in this business, you have to hold yourself accountable or you're not going to have success.
And it's the hardest thing to do in this business.
Yeah.
So you need somebody else that's identifying kind of where you're missing out on pieces of your business.
Well, and you also need somebody who can say the hard things to you. You're not going to go look yourself in the mirror and beat yourself up, right?
No.
When you're already feeling down.
We stay away from that.
Yeah, exactly. So having somebody who can, also say, hey, this is what you need to be doing better and working on, I think that also helps with coaching as well.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, that was everything I have for you. Thank you so much for your time
welcome,
today.
Of course.
If you guys want to learn more about the team, feel free to reach out. You go through our amazing training program, then you can link up with Janelle, and she'll just make you into a rock star.
And we'll get you there.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.